Hey folks, welcome back to the channel, and as always I do thank you for watching. In the previous video you saw me bond all these ribs and the stern to the hull side plate, and tonight after I got home from work I finished this task. I bonded the side plate here, the side of the hull, to the bulkhead and at the bow, and I've already made my check with my laser to make sure that I'm still on center and the nose is right on center. So that's all I can do for tonight. I've got to wait overnight for that epoxy to cure. So with all that said, I will see you in the morning. Hey folks, I'm back, and as you can see, this panel is now bonded in all the way, front to back, fore to aft. Remember, I mentioned that I left these just a little bit wider than they needed to be, and the plan was to trim this down later. And of course the way I'm going to do that is I'm just going to use the planer, and I'm going to rough it in with the planer, and then finish it off with this little sanding tool that I made right here. And the way I made this, it's a 3-foot long piece of 1x3, and I made it long enough to make contact with the keel and with the stringer and with the bottom of the side panel right here. And I just put some adhesive backed sandpaper on it, and this is the that's that body file paper you can buy at the auto supply. They use that on body files for doing body work. And the way I plan to finish this out is to just lay this little sanding board across the keel beam and the stringer, and then just sand this down right here until I have a nice straight line running across here. When I can take a straight edge and make contact here at the keel, at the stringer, and at this panel. And right now, as you can see, I have nice even contact at all 3 points. And what that does is that gives me a nice straight line across here, so that when I lay these bottom panels in place, they're making even contact with the ribs, with the stringers, with the keel beam, with the hull side panel right here. And you know, like I said, we don't want any gaps, we don't want any waves or warps or bubbles or anything in that bottom skin, and that will just help me to achieve that. That will help me to get these panels attached to where they are nice and smooth, no waves. That's the goal. Hey folks, it's one thing I forgot to talk about when I recorded that previous segment this afternoon, and that's this attachment point right here for the hull side panel at the bow. And this is where the bottom half will attach right here. And if you remember, I talked about this a little bit there on the other side when I was working on the other side. And this has to be milled out right here. I have to mill a little pocket right here because this piece right here, the bottom half, cannot sit flush with this part of the bow right here, because the top half will overlap this piece. And so this has to be recessed a little bit, and that will allow the top half to overlap and sit on top of the bottom hull panel. And when that piece is bonded in place, I want that nice and flush with this part of the bow right here, so we have a nice smooth transition. Okay folks, that's all I have for tonight, and it's a good day's work. I'll be back at it again tomorrow. Thank you for watching. Hey folks, good afternoon. Welcome back once again. I decided to momentarily stop planing and sanding that side panel over there. Let me show you. Yeah, remember I mentioned in that previous segment I got to bring this down even with this surface here, where I've got a nice straight line all the way across here, and decided to stop momentarily in order to get the panel on the opposite side bonded in place. And the reason for that is as I'm moving the planer back and forth and moving my sanding board back and forth. I mean, this thing's it's just shaking all over the place, and I've got this panel where I want it, and so I think the wise thing to do would be to just go ahead and get this panel bonded in, and once that one's bonded in, then I can go ahead and just get all that planing and sanding done at one time. I'm going to do this the same way I did the other side. I'm going to bond the stern and these two ribs first, let that set up, then do the next four ribs, let that set up, and then we'll attach the side panel at the bulkhead and at the bow. And I'm just going to follow the script, do it the same way I did over there. So with that, time to get to work. First three stations are fine. Alright, so I've got the first three stations bonded in place. Got the stern bonded in, got these first two ribs bonded in, and got them clamped. All we can do now is wait. And what you see right here, let's see if I can get the camera on that and get a good camera angle. Remember, one of my earliest videos, I mentioned that I had a slight warp on the stern here, on this entire piece of plywood right here for the stern had a little bow to it, and I kind of attributed that to the epoxy right here. When it sets up, it tends to shrink just ever so slightly, and sure enough, when I started checking and just looking things over here, I found just a little slight curve at this corner. And so what I did was I put this clamp on and pulled that curve out, and then clamped it to this rib right here to keep it from springing back, and I will release this clamp once I get this panel bonded all the way down, and that's when I'll release that clamp, because this is probably going to be under a little bit of tension right there. But that's what's going on with that. That's just to pull out that little slight warp. I talked about that, gosh, it's probably been 8 or 9 months ago that I talked about that in one of my previous videos, and that was back when I was assembling the transom. So that's it. Same old story, gotta let the epoxy dry. We will see you in the next video. Thank you for watching. Well folks, I'm going to wrap this video up, and as always I do thank you for watching. I appreciate each and every one of you, and It's been almost a year now since I started this project, and believe you me, I would love nothing better than to hurry this along and get this boat in the water. But of course, since I did not buy this in a kit, I sort of built everything from scratch here, including all the patterns that I used to cut my plywood. I mean, everything has been built from scratch. And if I'd bought one of the kits with the patterns already made, or spent a little bit more money and bought one of the kits that already had the plywood cut, of course I'd probably be out on the water right now, but I chose not to go that path. I wanted to do it this way, and of course it's just going to take a little bit longer. And you know, like I said, it just doesn't seem like it's been a year almost. And that got me to thinking too. I've got a granddaughter that lives with me, and she's been with us now since she was 1.5 years old. And when she was about 4 years old, I taught her how to ride a bicycle and took her training wheels off and taught her how to ride without training wheels. And you know, that just seems like that was only yesterday. And now she's 12 years old. She's got braces on, and probably a couple of years from now I'll be teaching her how to drive a car. But you know, hey, let's let's hold off on that as long as we can. But no, my point to all this is you know, time. It just seems like things, you know, they happen in a blink of an eye. And like I said, it just seems like yesterday that I was teaching my granddaughter how to ride her bicycle, and here probably, like I said, in a couple of more years I'll be teaching her how to drive a car. I've talked to people down through the years who kind of have this idea about their salvation, their relationship with God, that it's something that they can put off. It's something that they can do later in life. And to be honest with you, I used to be guilty of that myself, and it was something that I always said I would do later. Reading the Bible, that was something I'll do later in life. But the problem with that is, first of all, like I said, time just seems to fly by in the blink of an eye. And second, we don't know how much time we have left on this earth. We don't know how much time God has given us. And you know, this is an age-old thing that people have been wrestling with, I guess, down through the centuries, because the Apostle Paul addressed this in his second letter to the church at Corinth. And I guess, you know, there are some people there saying the same thing. So, well, you know, I'll come to Christ, you know, when I'm older. I'll accept Jesus, you know, when I'm on my deathbed. And you know, like I said, the problem with that is you don't know when that's going to be. And for us in our time, you don't know when you're going to cross paths with that Mack truck that has your name on it. And it's very important that you don't put off your salvation. You don't put off accepting the gift of grace from God. As Paul wrote to the Corinthians in his letter, he said, working together with him, with God, then we appeal to you not to receive the grace of God in vain, for he says, in a favorable time I listened to you, and in a day of salvation I have helped you. Behold, now is the favorable time. Behold, now is the day of salvation. Very simply put, folks, what Paul is saying is don't put it off. And that's my message to you tonight. Is don't delay it. Don't put it off. Don't say that, you know, well, you know, that's something I'll do later. That's something I'll wait and do when it's almost time to die. Because like I said, none of us know how much time we have. Folks, that's all I have for you tonight. And as always, you know, like I said earlier, I appreciate each and every one of you. I thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next video. Until then, behave, be blessed, and to God be the glory in all things. Good night.